Tonight, Governor Walz, the attack dog, on full display tonight in his first solo campaign event.
Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, they see the world very differently than we do. The only thing those two guys knows about working people is how to work to take advantage of them.
All right, that comes as Kamala Harris is making gains in key swing states with a surprising and crucial voting group. And Harry Annan is here with me to go beyond the numbers. So, Harry, we know, obviously, you look at the overall polls, you see these swing state polls, the ones over the weekend from Siena did stand out. We'll see if that's really where this goes. But you found something very interesting in terms of one group that stands out.
White working class voters, white voters without a college degree. That is Donald Trump's core group. That was the reason why he was able to break down that giant blue wall, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, in the Great Lakes. And look at their support now versus where we were a few months ago when the matchup was between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Look, Donald Trump still leads, but look at that margin. It has shrunk significantly. It was 25 points back in May. It is now 14 points now here in August, nearly been sliced by half. Those numbers that Harris is putting up amongst that group right now are actually slightly better than Joe Biden did 4 years ago amongst those voters in those key states. Those are the types of numbers that Kamala Harris needs to put up in order to win. And of course, Joe Biden was like, I don't want to drop out of the race because I'm not sure that Kamala Harris can break in with this group, but it turns out she absolutely can.
Which is fascinating because originally when they started, right, it was an immediate map expansion. They started looking at Georgia, North Carolina even, not giving up, but it seemed like sort of accepting that conventional wisdom. Correct. And now it's fascinating that may not be the case. So also the economy. When we look at that, we just were talking about that. That's an issue Trump has been extremely strong on. Is that changing?
It is. I mean, again, look, we're still looking at Trump having a clear advantage amongst white working class voters in the Great Lake battleground states. But again, the margin is shrinking, and elections are all about margins. You see it shrinking. He had a 36-point advantage in May. It's now down to 24 points here in August. These are the types of numbers that Kamala Harris needs to put up. And more than that, it's about the economy. This is also a change election, and it's also about change as well. And she's breaking through among white working class voters on the issue of change. So the economy and change working for her cohesively.
You're talking about Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin there. Obviously, those are crucial. That's that blue wall. But when you look more broadly, does this tip the scale as you look at other crucial must-win states?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Non-college whites are a key group across the board. They are a plurality of voters in the electorate when you compare them with college-educated whites or if you compare them with African Americans and Hispanics, and especially in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. Look at that. They're the majority of voters. The fact that Harris is closing in on Trump with them is the big reason why she has those advantages she has now in those New York Times, Siena College
Absolutely
polls
fascinating,
there.
and not what probably anybody expected, certainly, from what Joe Biden was saying.
But a welcome thing for Democrats, definitely.
All right, Harry, thank you. So now let's go to Kate Bedingfield, former Biden White House communications director. So, Kate, when you hear this, and see these numbers that Harry was just going through in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, non-college educated white voters seeing a move this significant in such a short period of time, why do you think this is?
Well, I think that the Trump agenda is actually not as palatable to these folks as people might have thought. I think his sense of kind of chaos, his sense of only being out for himself. I mean, I think you heard Governor Walz really kind of effectively driving that point just a few minutes ago in that soundbite you were playing from his remarks tonight. I think that there is a fatigue with Trump. I also think that Kamala Harris is representing an economic agenda that does connect with these folks. I mean, if you look at what she and President Biden did in her 4 years in the White House, they capped the cost of insulin. They're able to say that they beat Big Pharma on that, which I can tell you from my time in the White House is something that absolutely pulled through the roof as a bipartisan accomplishment that people are, or I should say there's bipartisan approval for that accomplishment.
Yeah.
A strong manufacturing record as a result of the CHIPS Act, the junk fee work that she and President Biden have done. I mean, there are a lot of things that she has to talk about here that are broadly popular, that go to making life more affordable for working people. So I think it's a combination of those two things, but there's no question it is great news for the Democrats to see these numbers moving in that way.
Well, and also, I guess I'll say, President Biden had expressed caution about this happening, but there are many who had said that group of voters would not turn to Kamala Harris. Some Democrats believed they would say because there would be an inherent racial aspect to this. It seems that kind of base expectation that some people had is wrong.
which is a phenomenal thing to hear. And I certainly hope that that's true. I hope for the sake of our country that's true. If you look at Joe Biden's performance in Wisconsin in 2020, he narrowly won Wisconsin while losing white working class voters by a 14-point margin, which is what
Yeah.
we see from Kamala Harris right here. So, again, we have to remember, right? He doesn't have Kamala Harris doesn't have to win working class whites. They still
Right.
remain a core pillar, obviously, of Donald Trump's support. But bringing those margins down in these blue wall states is incredibly important. But also, don't forget, I mean, ultimately, the reason, for example, that Joe Biden won Pennsylvania in 2020 was his solid performance with Black voters in Philadelphia and in Allegheny County, which is Pittsburgh. That is still going to be a fundamental piece of this coalition if Kamala Harris is going to be successful.
All right. Well, Kate, thank you so much. Great to see you.